It's very nice to be thought of as being pretty, as being, it's a plus. It's nice. It's not terribly important, but it is nice to have it in your favor.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I really do appreciate your time. I wanted to come on here and do a reaction style video, somewhat of a reaction style video to this young lady's video I came across on Facebook. She is a biracial woman, and she is talking about having light skin, having biracial privilege, having light skin privilege, and just giving her thoughts on what her experiences are, as well as discussing how white people see her and view her race. And I just thought this video was really interesting, so I wanted to react to it. So here we go.
Up on my last video around white people, it doesn't matter if you are light skin or dark skin. If you are anything other than white, you are different. You are considered an other, and that is how white people view the world for the most part. I have never received preferential treatment by white people when compared to my darker skinned black counterparts. I know this because I speak to them. And I always had the same exact experiences growing up. I did not get better treatment just because I was light skinned and biracial. I would say that I get better treatment than darker skinned black women by black men, but I would not say that for white people. You're either white or you're not. And obviously I'm not. Yes, I have a white parent, but I am not white. That's another thing. When people are like, but you're also white. No, the fuck I'm not. The concept of race is literally just how you phenotypically present. It has nothing to do with your ethnicity. That's why you can have a black biracial woman. You can have a white biracial woman. If you have visibly black features, you are black. You don't have to have two black parents to be considered black in society, because race is not just your genetics. And we see that being proven every day on this app when people are posting their DNA results. People that have two black parents still have like 30 or 40% European, because guess what? Genetics are insane. I have seen light-skinned black people with two black parents who are the only light-skinned person in their family. And I've seen biracial black people who are 1,000 times darker than that light-skinned black person. Like, you have no idea how genes are going to play out. Either way, black is black is black is black. If you can pass as a white person and you are biracial, you are white. If you cannot pass as white and you are biracial, then you are not white. Hope this helps.
Okay, so first of all, I agree with like 90% of what she said, only because much of what she said is true. I mean, it may be uncomfortable to hear, or it may not be something that you may like, or it may align with your personal like experiences or what you personally believe or think, but majority of the things that she said is 100% true. I do believe that white people oftentimes do look at themselves as the standard, and then they other everyone else. I absolutely think that that's a real thing. I do feel like they don't take as much time to decipher what people are. I do think they notice like the differences between biracial and black, as well as, you know, within the different races. But I don't think white people take the time to familiarize themselves with the different ethnic backgrounds that a black person can have, and vice versa. And I don't feel no type of way about that, because as a black person, I mean, other than of recently, where I have decided to stop mainly just identifying people with their racial backgrounds and started more paying attention to their ethnic backgrounds, because that's a more accurate description of what people are. Up until that point, I just did white, you know, non-white, basically. So I'm guilty of the same thing. So I don't necessarily look at that as a good or bad thing, but I do think that her saying that she hasn't received privileges or a difference in treatment to white people or from white people concerning her blackness in regards to how she looks in comparison to other monoracial women or darker skinned black women. I think she's being honest in that as well, because I believe what she's trying to distinguish, or at least talk about, is the fact that a lot of times when it comes to how white people see blackness, it is, like I said, generally speaking, it is like a huge sweeping generalizations, and they're not really distinguishing us. Now, I do believe that a biracial person that looks racially ambiguous versus a person that doesn't look racially ambiguous, I do believe white people pick up on that. But still, I believe there is oh, well, this person isn't white like me, so they're a person of color. They're just other, right? Also, I can 100% agree with her saying that how you look in terms of what phenotypical traits you have, or how they are manipulated depending on what your skin tone looks like at that time of the year, what your facial features look like, what your hair looks like. Your racial category can change or morph based off of how your racial identity is being understood within context at the time. This is something I 100% experience as a professional commercial print model. Now, what I mean by that is, when I was casted, oftentimes I would be casted to play different types of women of color. Again, I am not saying that I believe I'm mixed. I want to be mixed. I think I look mixed. I think I look like a black woman. I think you see me. I think I'm visibly a black woman. You may not be able to pick up on the fact that I'm an Afro-Latina, or the fact that I'm Caribbean or West Indian, or maybe you can. I don't know. But I think that I look like a black woman, right? 100%. That's what I believe. However, when I was a professional model, my marketability, most of it, why I got hired so often, why I made a lot of money, is because apparently my features lend to different racial groups and ethnicities. So sometimes I was the black girl. I was a token black girl in the ad. Sometimes I was a Latina. Sometimes I was the general person of color, woman of color. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? That's what happens depending on how I'm literally the makeup, the art direction of the ad or the commercial, whether or not they made my skin appear lighter and darker, as in like the actual application of the makeup of the costume, how they styled my hair, and then in post, how did they edit my skin, how they edit my features, what color did they make my eyes, you know, all of that has to do with how my racial identity can be understood or perceived by others. Now, this was back in the day. This was this was in the early 2000s. This was way before, you know, people could come online and cancel somebody and talk about how things were said, and, you know, you were allowed to go. This was not the climate in which I modeled in, right? So at the time I modeled, they were still hiring professional commercial print models, not so much influencers, you know. They were actually hiring models from an actual agency, a talent agency, a management agency, right? And so how they would speak to you was very like blunt and honest. And I'm not talking about like whisperings and like rambling. I'm talking about like they would tell you like, oh, we want you to be the black girl today. You know, like they would literally tell me like, oh, okay, Kia, we want you to be, let's see, what do we have? Do we have a black girl? No, you'll be the black girl today. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the models. Let's see. We need a more Hispanic looking one, so we're gonna have you fill in for. That's how I was treated when I modeled. And the reason why, like I said, I was treated like that is because my features lend to different things depending on how they are played. Now, how I dress in real life, how I present in real life, I feel like I present and dress like a black woman. I feel like the accents, the aesthetics that I have, that I choose to represent, I feel like that causes you to understand me as a black woman. I feel like that causes you to racialize me as a black woman, whether it's good or bad. But that is definitely something that is a real thing, that these outside sort of cues that have to do with how we present ourselves will oftentimes win over what you actually look like versus what you actually are. Because there are biracial people who are not white passing. There are biracial people who are not racially ambiguous. Sometimes how you look, what your features lend, and based off of the stereotypes that we, you know, apply to certain races, that's how your racial identity will be understood. And that's what I think she was talking about. So There were a lot of people in her comment section who were trying to tell her that she's white, she's white, she's white. And she's saying, no, I'm not white. I'm clearly biracial. I'm clearly racial ambiguous. And one of the reasons why she doesn't identify as white is because her white side wouldn't not so much her particular white side, white people outside of her family, and maybe some of them in her family, won't accept her as white. And I think a lot of times that's why biracial people feel the need to identify, then they feel the need to pick a side, is because they really don't have a choice. So instead of the white side being like, okay, well, you are technically half white, you can be white with us. A lot of times, unless they are white passing, like someone like a Rashida Jones, they don't have a choice. They have to be black. They have to be other because they're not white. This is why I always say, like, and always stress whenever I'm having these type of conversations, is I believe biracial is a completely valid identity. I don't think that you have to be mixed. I don't think that if you are biracial, you have to pick which side. I think because you are multiracial, as well as most likely multicultural, as well as most likely multi-ethnic, that you have the ability to say, I am both. I am multiracial. I am biracial, meaning two races, or I am multiracial, which is my parents were both biracial themselves, and now, you know what I'm saying? I don't see the point of forcing people to choose which race they are. To me, that has no value. But I understand that because of the way we are socialized, that instantly we categorize things. We put things in places and labels, and that's what people do. And so that's oftentimes why biracial people are forced to choose. But other than that, I don't have an issue with anything that she said. I feel like she was very honest. I don't feel like she was coming off condescending. Because there were some people who didn't like this video. I was reading some comments, and I just, to me, she just spoke the truth. She just spoke facts how they are. But get below in the comment section. Let me know, what are your reactions to her video? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Let me know. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Take care.